Tonight on the show, we talk to the director of FGC the movie. Then we talk to NYChrisG. Are you all excited? You're watching Best of 3.
Awesome. Intense.
Welcome to another exciting episode of Best of 3, the weekly FGC talk show brought to you by The Daily Dot. As always, I'm Efren Salinas, joined by my co-host, Michael Donka Schiller. Now, we will be joined by our regular panel of Ace King Offsuit and Velociraptor, but first, we're going to kick off the show by talking to the director, the editor, the producer, the guy that blood, sweat, and tears were put into to create this film that you're seeing right behind me, which is FGC Rise of the Fighting Game Community. Please join me in welcoming Esteban. How you doing, man?
Good. What an intro. Jeez.
Esteban the Besteban, probably the coolest tour handle I've seen in a while, man.
Yeah.
How does it feel to finally have put out the film?
It's a huge weight off my back. Like, that's a crazy project. I'm like insane for even trying to do something like that, but it feels good.
Well, we're going to get into the particulars of the film, but first, as we were talking prior to the show, I was a fan of yours for a very long time back in the videos you were putting out. You were doing the Hold Back to Block YouTube channel interviews where you'd go to a tournament, talk to people that people wanted to hear about, and put them up. And, of course, you would see them on Event Hubs, you would see them on Shoryuken, and they were wildly popular and very well produced. Let's start off there. What made you want to go out and document the community?
I've been doing video for a while now, since college. I've been doing editing since I can remember, since I first had my computer, like 2000. Like editing like little anime music videos and stuff like that. And then I got into film, started doing some stuff for college and for college TV. And eventually I just decided to I got a good camera, I got a DSLR. And I was like, let's go to these events and let's go meet people and go talk to them and ask them why they do this. And, I've been playing games like forever. I've been playing fighting games since Street Fighter 2 and SNES. Just my cousin's just beating me up in a room.
You were listening to a girl? Come on, man. This is the FGC.
I mean, it doesn't matter who you are, girl, child, 80-year-old man. If you got skills, you got skills.
Exactly. Okay, so but the leap to feature-length documentary, again, you must have been crazy. What possessed you? At what point did you say, you know what, there's so much material here that I need to really showcase the FGC?
It was just, meeting people, like doing the interviews for Hold Back to Block and doing the feature videos and stuff like that, and getting to know all the games, their system levels and stuff like that, and just saying like, wow, there's a lot that's covered here, and looking at other media that was out, like Ian Cofino's I Got Next was a big inspiration, and other FGC docs that are out there. Like, I didn't feel like one specifically hit what I was seeing, like the various amount of games. Like, a lot of them focus on Street Fighter, and like Street Fighter is like the community's biggest game. It's kind of like the game that everything's based around of. But I didn't see things like, well, what about Guilty Gear? What about BlazBlue? What about all this other stuff that's out there? And what about the people? So like I wanted to do a project that I wanted to see out there. And so I started putting this film together, and it was kind of an insane process, an insane task, and I'm so happy that it's out there and people are liking it.
But you go out there and you start asking these questions. What kind of a response were you getting? Because, I mean, you got everybody who should be in this documentary is in it. You got your Seth Killians, you got your James Chens, you got various tournament organizers, you have notable players. When you start telling them, hey, I'm doing a movie, can I get an interview with you? What kind of response were you getting?
For the most part, nobody was like against it. They were all for it. I know James was the only one that was like, there's been a couple of these projects out there. There's been a couple of films that either are out or have started and have not come out. So just, if you're going to do this, make sure you do have a different spin on it. And from the get-go, my goal was I want to do a film that is accessible to people in the fighting game community. Like, they're going to like it. They're going to enjoy it. And I want to do something different. So like, I wanted to avoid using, talking about the Daigo parry, because everybody has talked about the death. I want to talk to different people, outside of like the Justin Wongs and Alex Valles, because there are other people out there. But I also wanted it for people who've never touched a game, or have never heard of a fighting game, or have never heard Street Fighter before, for them to be able to look at this and go, oh, so this is what this is, and this is the people in the community, and this is why they like it, and this is why they enjoy it, and for them to kind of see a little bit of themselves in these people that just enjoy these games so much. So those were the two things I was looking for.
I noticed that in the film, it definitely portrays the FGC as like some kind of utopia to a degree. I mean, like this is like takes all comers. Anybody who can press the buttons can play. Everybody is welcome. You didn't, however, leave out the fact that there is some negativity associated with the FGC. As somebody so involved and obviously in love with the FGC, like so many of us are, did you find it difficult to be fair on that part and really show both sides, or did you think I need to shoehorn this in or I'm going to get called out?
No, it was kind of like you have to take the good with the bad. And when I asked everybody that question, it's just like, like I that question that I portrayed is like, how do you think we're portrayed in the media? And that question forces like everybody I interviewed to be like, well, yeah, like we do have some bad things. Like some bad things have happened in the community. You have the portrayal of women. You have like, the various like kind of like, this is also a community that has also been kind of burned plenty of times, like fundraising schemes and all this kind of stuff. And it has a history of not so many nice things. So you can't just leave that out. Like you can't have a film called FGC, Rise of the Fighting Game Community, and just ignore like, some of the background stuff. So I definitely wanted to make sure from the get-go that I covered that in some way or in some form. And to be fair on both sides, too. Like, not to be like, oh, it's all terrible or it's all good, but to be like, it's a mix of, good and bad.
What was your favorite part about working on this film?
My favorite part is it's just always talking to people. It's always just meeting new people. It's always picking people's brains and seeing how they work and how they tick and why they like or why they love this community and why they love these games and what is it about everything that they stay around. You have people like Seth and James who have been in this community forever, like, from the beginning. And it's like, why are they still here? Like why, what keeps them coming back? And not only coming back, what makes them want to lead? So that's my favorite part, is just, getting to know these people more.
And I mean, what did you learn? I mean, you're saying you got to talk to them. What did you learn about the FGC that you didn't know before you started this project?
The level of dedication is insane. Like, not just like for top players and stuff like that. Like obviously, like in order to research a game and to learn a game. Like I watched LK, Lord Knight in the film. Like when I interviewed him, we did that like for a day and stuff like that. And I watched how he trained and to go through, especially an anime game like BlazBlue, where like the areas of attacks and the approaches are way different than a traditional 2D game, and to go through not only your character but every single character and go through every single normal and go through every single special and know what beats what and how to handle this approach and like it's insane. But then on the other side you have like tournament organizers like Big E, you have Larry in Final Round, Larry Shimblanca and stuff like that, and like they like it's almost another grind. Like when you put an event together, what can go wrong? What can go right? What does the venue need? What kind of power do we need? What kind of internet do we need? Like all that kind of stuff. And you see that through John and Joe. And it's like, it's crazy. Like it's no sane person should be doing all that. Like, cause it's not as rewarding. Like the reward is people have fun and they have a good time. They come back. But financially it's a grind. It's hard. It's especially when starting out, it'll crush you. Like it's hard. So to see this community of players, of tournament organizers, of fans, of people just to gather around this is pretty cool. Like I always was a fan, but I'm an even bigger fan after doing a film like this.
Mm-hmm. So on that note, a lot of people are worried, about the outside coming in, about the rise of esports. How important was it to get on the inside and to be a part of the community, to be able to show it off to everyone else?
That was originally like, I have some footage of people talking about that.
About the esports question?
About the esports stuff. Like, and it feels almost kind of dated because, like, we're kind of, like, how I see it and how a lot of people see it is, like, yeah, we will take esports or we'll take, like, the bigger prizes and the bigger spotlight. But at least with the FGC, it feels like we're going to take it on our own accord. Like, we're not going to just let a bunch of people just come in and be like, we're going to do like the special event, but you can't really bring your own flavor and it's going to be heavily produced or stuff like that. Like you see things like Capcom Cup. Like Capcom Cup is a nice merger of that grander stage with that still like that FGC flavor. Like it's still produced by FGC guys. It's got, you got the interviews, you got your player personalities coming out, and it's like a nice blend. So I think we're going to see more of that kind of style. But I don't know if people are as worried as they were 2 years ago when I was filming about like the encroaching of the larger esports world.
It's interesting. You would have unique insight into this by talking to so many TOs. But it looks like this year and going forward, you are going to start to get a stratification, if you will, or, like tiers of different types of games, different tournaments, different flavors. What's your take on where we're headed? I guess the esports question is maybe not as relevant anymore, but where are we headed, in your opinion?
God, that's Jesus.
And let me, if you need time to think about it, let me preface it by saying this. This weekend, we were at Kumite in Tennessee. This weekend, also, we had Genesis going on. Do you need any clearer indication that those are not the same community? And I say this because I was watching your film and I noticed you put a lot of Smash in there. And this leads me to think of, where we're headed, where we're going to split, where we're not. Are these getting big enough that they can be their own thing? Certainly Smash could make that argument. Where do you lie on all that?
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to it's going to like Genesis was a risk. Like they hadn't done an event in such a long time. And to come back out of the gate and be like, we're going to do this in this convention center, and our final is going to be in this hall, and we're going to hire the best people to cover it. We're going to hire the best people to stream it. Like, that is a TO and a community taking, it looks, to call it a risk in hindsight is to be like, well, of course it's going to work. But to put your money where your mouth is and be like, this is us, this is where we're going, and we're going to show the world now. Like, that's a huge accomplishment to them. And I think, you mentioned KIT, and KIT, I've never actually been, unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to, but you compare Genesis to KIT and how Genesis portrayed itself, to the events. So I think TOs, at least on the FGC side of things, are going to have to start to look at their events differently and be like, well, maybe instead of a ballroom, maybe we try for a bigger venue if we can do it logistically, or, how we promote different ways. So it's going to require growth and risk taking. And I'm pretty excited. I think we're headed in a very interesting direction where we're going to see a lot more people take interesting risk and try to do different things. Now that we have, Street Fighter V coming out in less than a month, we're going to have bigger exposure and a bigger audience and a bigger player base. So this feels like the year for risk taking.
And you'll be there to document it.
Oh, of course.
Esteban, I had a question from a friend of the show, David Brown. He wanted to know, did you pitch the film to any mainstream media broadcasters like ESPN, or was the web distribution always the plan?
So the web distribution was always the plan because I wanted to get it out into people's hands as soon as possible. I see a lot of films, especially a lot of amateur films, a lot of amateur documentaries, they get so consumed with wanting to do the festival circuit. Like, we want to submit it to Sundance, or we want to submit to this, or we want to submit to that. And if you look at my Kickstarter pitch, I had talked about doing that. But the more research I'd done into it, it's like you get held up into well, this place wants the world premiere, so we can't really release it until after that, or this licensing deal takes place and we can't release it in that. And my only goal was I need to get this film out as quick as possible, as good as I can do it from start to finish and into people's hands. Because the longer I wait, the information might not be as relevant, but I also want people to trust me. This is my first project that, I remember charging money for. This is my first project, my first film that I've ever done. And I want to, I built some goodwill with Hold Back the Block, but I didn't want to delay. And I wanted people, especially people, the Kickstarter backers, I wanted them to be like, hey, you gave me this money to make this film. This is it. I don't want you guys to wait anymore. Here you go. Thank you very much. And I hope you enjoy it.
And quit bugging me about it. No, that's not part of it. Esteban,
No.
I think you succeeded. I think this, if nothing else, is a great way for a lot of people who are passionate about it and have friends or family or anybody who's interested who doesn't quite get it. You show them this film, there's no question. You get what it is, how it runs, what kind of games there are, and why people are so passionate about it. So congratulations on being able to pull that off.
Thank you very much.
Where can people see the film?
You can see the film at fgcfilm.com. It is $10 to purchase and $4 to rent.
Esteban, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, Chief. Well, we'll see you next time, man. Next time for the sequel.
Oh, God. Let's not even start about
FGC,
that.
the fall of the fighting game community. No, just kidding. All right, man. Thank you, Esteban. We'll see you next time.
Take care.
Later. You haven't had a chance to quite see it yet, but I'm sure you've seen that it's common, right? People love to go out and cover it. I'm one of them. I think I've interviewed you before once prior to starting this show because there's that passion. I was bit by the same bug that Esteban was. You want to share this with people because you're passionate about it. Do you think that helps or hurts? Does that help or hurt?
The passion?
Yeah.
Of course it helps.
Or the oversaturation, because I could argue I was part of the problem. We were getting out all these interviews like, yeah, we've already heard from K-Brad. We've already heard from this guy. Here we are doing it.
I don't think there really can be an oversaturation. If something is going to be disliked, then it's going to be disliked, and people aren't going to watch it, and what's good will float to the top, One thing I did like that he mentioned was that he cared so much about the Kickstarter that he had started originally. We've actually had a couple issues with Kickstarters in the past. I mean, we've had, I don't remember the exact name, like Beast's Fury or something like that. It's had like 4 different Kickstarters and not exactly made the complete game yet, despite making a bunch of promises. So to see him follow through, care about the fans, and actually make this video really works out in our favor that we have people like that in the scene.
Well, I've seen the film. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you check it out. Now, before we go any further, let's bring on our weekly panel of Steven Jerk, Ace King Off Suit, and John Velociraptor Guerrero. Both of you gentlemen are looking in crisp HD this time. No potatoes here. How you guys doing?
I had a joke ready, and you killed it.
Oh, man, I do. Actually, I stole it from last time. I was even thinking to myself, I'm going to throw on the glasses, and Steve's going to be like, hey, that was my joke.
How do you expect me to perform under these circumstances? I don't know.
Yeah, that's what K-Brett said when he was getting the shades thrown on. Hey, John, welcome back from your vacation. How's it going, buddy?
I am rejuvenated and ready to go. It was a good vacation. Thank you.
Guys, we are going to talk about tournament results like we always do. Of course, Donk and I are coming back from Kumite in Tennessee where we had a great time, and we got to participate in Panda's broadcast. But since we just finished talking to Esteban, and he's a guy that I would categorize as somebody who, sure, he's getting paid, it's $10 for the film, but that guy didn't need to put in all that effort. That's definitely something for the community, by the community. And there are other people who do that as well. I wanted to talk about this Brooks Universal Arcade board. Did you guys hear about this board that basically makes your controller work on any console? Which, to me, I didn't take my stick to Kumite in Tennessee because it's a PS3 stick, and it's always played on Xboxes. So, aside from paying to dual mod it, but then the PS4 is coming out, and then the Xbox One's coming out, and then it doesn't work on PC, and then somebody goes out and does this. How do you guys feel about these community efforts? I'm going to play a video here of this gentleman here. What can you tell us, buddy?
Well, for a lot of people, it's a big deal. I remember back, in like 2010, after going to my first tournament, I paid Freak, a local Chicago modder, to end up, dual modding my stick, and it helped me out. It let me play at people's houses, let me play at tournaments without borrowing someone's stick, let me do a whole bunch of stuff. And to hear that Brook themselves ended up reaching out to the SRK Tech Talk community and finding these guys and realizing the needs of the community to have something like this is a really big deal. Obviously, PS4 compatibility is huge. A lot of people, didn't know which console to buy. There was the Xbox One coming out with Killer Instinct. Now the PS4 has kind of usurped it with Tekken 7, with
Street Fighter 5,
with Street Fighter 5, obviously, and the fact is that by consolidating this into one board, which they're selling at a very comparatively cheap price to buying, a stick for every console, is huge. It's going to let people play all these different games and try them all out. It's good for whether or not, they have these deals with Sony and stuff, and they want you to buy their controllers. It's good for Capcom and all the other fighting game companies because it lets more people play their game. It's hugely convenient for tournaments, and it's convenient for the players themselves. So hopefully they can do this. I know they've had some issues with 8-minute timeouts. They keep, changing it around so that every 8 minutes the PS4 checks to see if it's an actual PS4 stick. My stick has that problem. It's a reset every time. It's annoying. But Brook has been on top of their game in terms of every single time one of these, updates comes out, they fix it. So hopefully they'll be able to permanently keep it like that, and this thing will work just as well as they say it will.
I want to give a shout out to Johnny Fraze. He's the guy that reached out to me and said, hey, this is what's happening. We reached out to the Brooks guys because they were doing really good work. Now, if you need any indication on how reputable these guys are, they do converters. The converters are so good that at the Capcom Cup, not only was Problem X using it, but so was Knuckle Dew. So that should tell you how good they are. Gentlemen, do you have thoughts on the accessibility of the universal board that you can put in to a stick and now you can use it everywhere?
I feel like it's a really good idea, especially from my viewpoint as a player. But here's the thing. I don't know how excited Mad Catz or Razer or these huge companies that have done so much for the FGC are going to be about something like this. Yes, maybe eventually we can move to this universal board thing, but this is really kind of encroaching on these guys' territory, and like I said, we owe a very big portion of the FGC's success to companies like Mad Catz and like Razer. So I'm kind of hesitant to just jump into this, guns blazing and say, yeah, this is the greatest idea ever. From a business standpoint, I don't know. If you're gonna buy a stick for PS3 and then one for PS4 and such, yeah, it's not the easiest thing, but I just see a lot of issues coming up business-wise, and I don't know if I necessarily want to just go, lower my shoulders and go right into this.
That's actually a good point.
I think. Well, go ahead.
Sorry,
Steve.
go ahead, Steve.
I was just going to say on that, I mean, it's not like we haven't had, things to try and make controllers universal. The PS360 Plus was a thing. Really, I just don't see how that is going to be like the death knell to Mad Catz and all these other companies coming in and helping. It's just there's a small subset of people that are willing to go and buy these mods. It might be bigger now that it's actually a good one, but I don't see this. I don't see this having a huge negative impact on those companies.
You're definitely right, and I think it's a niche enough market at this point where it's kind of, the guys who are willing to do it will put it in their stick. Otherwise, they'll just shell out for a new one. I think the big question that John is alluding to is, like, are we going to have these companies trying to put these universal boards and controllers ready to go? Is that even legal? Like, will Mad Catz or Razer or, Sony themselves stand for that? And it's definitely an argument to be made, and I think right now there's space for everyone, but I mean it could close in the future for sure.
Well, we'll see. I did my part. I bought a PlayStation 4 Mad Catz stick at Kumite in Tennessee, so I'm feeling all right for myself. Those aren't the only community efforts that we have going on, and shout outs to those guys. And let me, before we move on, tell you where you can find out more about that if you're interested in. That would be, of course, brooksaccessories.com. And shout outs to those guys. Thank you very much. Zippy and the Brook team, and all these guys at the SRK team, Tech Talk crew, as they're called. You can find them on the forums there on SRK. But also of note, before we talk about tournaments, is this hitbox detector. Did you see this thing? You're telling me you're all up on that, the hitbox detector that has already come out for Street Fighter 5.
Oh, yeah, Dantarion has been ripping just about everything. He played a major role in ripping the new costumes that people have seen today. He's the guy that was getting a lot of press, maybe indirectly. Everyone, hated him for leaking all the characters and getting all this stuff out there and, like potentially killing future betas. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, for me personally, if Capcom's not going to give me the hitboxes and the frame data, I'll take whoever will, you know? And I think it's super awesome, especially in Street Fighter 5, which is a game where there's a 3-frame buffer window. It's so easy to implement frame data-based punishes and combos. If you know something works, it'll be easy to do. This has been instrumental in easily figuring out things every time a new beta drops for me.
I mean, I feel like this is the kind of guy that you hear of on Valve or Steam or whoever, the guys that were Ice Frog, is it? He does so much for the community, and then they pick him up and put him on the team. Give this guy a job.
Yeah, he's crying out. He was making AIs for Street Fighter 4 way before even this started, Zangiefs that would automatically SPD you every time you got in range and stuff like that. Yeah, this dude's some hidden genius who's really gonna help a lot of people out.
John, why do you think that being able to see hitboxes is something that people should care about?
Well, I think what we've been talking about with all this information that's coming out, and the way Danke was putting it, how you have a system where there are a lot bigger windows to do things and such, so you can really get in, and if you know something works, you can just go in and try it. I know there have been countless hours in the training room for SF4 for me, where I'm trying to get something to work, and I see it work on a video, but I just cannot get the training dummy to do it right or whatever. I cannot get that one frame timing down, and it's been incredibly frustrating, getting me stuck on these little things when I want to move on to bigger and better things, figure out this stupid setup and move on. I think that this is going to go right into the idea that the creators for Street Fighter 5 want this game to be picked up easy. They want people to be having fun, not getting stuck on these roadblocks. And this is, just a further testament to how great this is going to be and how easy this game is going to be able to be, or how easy it will be to play this game.
Frankly,
so I'm excited for it.
I think the only reason they don't put this in the game itself is so you can't see why Dalsum's foot is whiffing through 3 character lengths in a row. Yeah. Some of that stuff's still looking a bit janky, honestly.
But the hitbox lets you know, okay, well, this is how far I do have.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, the thing is, in a 2D game, because it really is a 2D game, even if it still has 3D models, it's harder to go back and edit an animation than it is to just fix the hitbox. So that's why you end up with a lot of these ugly things where, the foot's whiffing through them, but the hitbox ends there. It's a lot easier to balance that than not redraw it, but remodel it, I guess. Mm-hmm. Who knows if they'll ever go into fixing that.
Steve, are you about to say something?
Yeah, it's just frustrating to me We all want these in games. We all want to be able to see this work. Why is this not a standard in training modes?
I don't know, man.
It's 2016. Skullgirls had this in 2012. Why is this still not a thing?
You know, we get them slowly. It'll be in the update. We got the being able to just press the buttons to map the controls, and it came late. But
and then even then, you can't press B in the menu to get out. There's a lot of stuff that could definitely be tested, right now for sure. And I totally agree with Steve that the fact that this isn't standard, it's kind of ridiculous. And Injustice tried it, and then they were totally wrong on the way they algorithmically did it, which was interesting. Like it said, Superman's 4-frame super was supposed to be like 3,000 frames because it counted the whole animation. I don't know. There's work that could be done, but it all comes back to the fact that they're trying to sell this game to people, and the guys who care about the frame data aren't necessarily the ones who are, and they're going to buy the game anyway. So,
guys, I have a special announcement to make. We just got our first Best of 3 sub right here on the show live. Dumbledork. Dumbledork, thank you very much for subbing to Best of 3. Dumbledork says, I want to kiss Steve's head. Steve, any chance that we can fly you to Dumbledork for him to grace your dome with his lips?
Honestly, you don't want to kiss my head because you don't know where it's been. I don't want to kiss my head because I do know where it's been.
All right, cool. John, head kissing? What's up, man?
Bring it. I'm down. Free kisses, free hugs. Let's go.
All right, guys. There's one more guy that I want to give a shout out to as far as people who put work into the community that, again, do it of their own volition, don't need to be helping out, but do. And that's Chris Bond. He was taking photos at Kumite in Tennessee, and I've run into him at a bunch of different tournaments, and he's always out there doing his thing, advancing the craft, getting better at taking photos. In fact, later when we have ChrisG on, the image that we have of ChrisG came from his photos from Kumite in Tennessee. There's one thing to film at an event, and you can go back and see those interviews and watch the archives, but there's something special about photography, and I wish you guys would take the time to go check out his site and look at some of these amazing photos that he put up at ptbpro.org. Again, that guy took some awesome photos of Kumite in Tennessee, including the ones that we use on the show, and show him some love.
There was one of me kissing my Blaze Blue prize.
We're going to get to the fact that you won Blaze Blue at Kumite in Tennessee when we get there, okay? Don't get ahead of us. So shout outs to Chris Bond. That guy's doing good work, and show him some support. All right, guys, let's talk about some tournament results. And to do this, we're going to rely entirely on John Velociraptor, who was glued to the screen all weekend.
Great. I was pretty much incapacitated all weekend, so thanks for putting me on the spot. Let's see. I just found out that Danke won the tournament. Was the Blaze Blue. Good job, Danke. Go you. And Knuckle Dew won Street Fighter, and then there were some other events.
Actually, I know the big news out of Kumite in Tennessee, or what's generating a lot of buzz, and I know, Raptor, you will be prepared to talk about this. I was just messing with you by throwing that at you. Was, of course, this this beef between Knuckle Dew and K-Brad. We were a part of that of the stream, and during the halftime show, we brought him on to address it. And it was a little bit awkward, I guess, because we have him here, like it's myself, Danke, and K-Brad, and I asked him about why he didn't shake Dew's hand. And he gave his answer, and Dew's sitting right there in front of us live. But what happened was there was the exhibition match. Of course, these guys already have some history together. And the exhibition match ends. It did not go well for K-Brad. Dew was throwing on the shades. Taking him off, throwing him off. The match ends. The exhibition match ends. He sticks his hand out. GG's. K-Brad says no. People are mad. Some people are praising it. Where do you guys stand on it?
We've talked about this in the show before. I'm a friend of K-Brad for sure. The fact of the matter is, at this point, I can tell with almost 100% certainty that the shades have gotten in his head. He put on the shades the last time, and he jumped and cannon spiked at him immediately. He is totally messing with the way he plays, and at that point, I don't think you can really disagree with it. Do I think that's why Dew started putting them on in the first place? No. There's definitely an element of disrespect. There's definitely all of that. But, I mean, honestly, it's working. I'm sorry. Like, these shades are really getting people frustrated. And whether that makes them play worse indirectly, try to react to the shades and play worse in that sense. I mean, we've seen whiffed ultras on the shades. We've seen, bad jumps on the shades. I would definitely keep doing it if I was winning all these tournaments while throwing them on and off. So, I mean, at this point, I think it's a no-brainer.
Gentlemen? Steve? Yeah, John?
Oh.
No, go ahead.
No, there's so many different angles to approach this from. I was talking about it with couple of different people, just people that I would trust around here that I would, go to for an input on it. And I got a wide range of answers. One, like, it adds to the drama, adds to the spectacle of the whole thing. Why do we watch things like WWE? I mean, it's kind of a, it's a little bit of a distance between those two, FGC and WWE, but a lot of people in this community watch it. And like, why do we watch it? It's because of the smack talking and the taunting and the drama of it. And, even in professional sports, some of the juiciest things are in like when there's a little altercation. Last night at the Warriors and the LeBron James team game, the Cavaliers, there was a little bit of an internet meme came up instantly just because of a bad look from LeBron. I mean, people eat this stuff up. And so from the point of view of like, well, we want our community to have, viewership and to be exciting and such, well, this is going to do that for us. At the other end of the spectrum, well, respect is a huge thing. And if this is crossing that line that I think we as a community need to like kind of define and have a definition for so that we can actually make arguments one direction or the other, if this is crossing that line, then maybe it should be dealt with. Like maybe there should be some kind of a penalty or a fine. I don't know, but we need to talk about this. And this is something that probably should be regulated, and the arguments could go from any direction. Like
so
I said,
you're saying they need to regulate taunting?
I'm saying that might be a thing we need to do. Like we need to regulate, to some degree, like etiquette
okay.
In the tournament scene.
Now I saw, okay, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. Look, there's the handshake that's being denied, and I think it goes for it a second time. But anyway, I saw comments on our Capo of all places saying, "Thank you, Knuckle-Doo, for bringing back arcade culture. These guys aren't supposed to. I mean, they're trying to get in each other's heads. They're trying to piss each other off. It's totally a mind game." Any relevance to that maybe we've gone soft and this is the way it's supposed to be and he's bringing it back, and how ironic that it's one of the young guns that's doing it.
Honestly, for me, as long as it stays in game, I really don't care. I mean, if he wants to taunt in your face, you have one way to stop it, and that's to beat him. And K-Brad, I'm sorry, you didn't do it. You got to hold that. Simple as that.
And the other major point was that, he came on the show, and yet again, friend of K-Brad's, but he did say that DiCaprio was the one carrying him. And I know for a fact that Knuckle-Doo's continued with Guile for the sole purpose of, proving that he was able to win that way. And the taunting was obviously a big part of that. So, yeah, I'm on Steve's side at this point. It's in game, and it's working, and I don't know how you regulate that at that point other than just beating him.
I mean, in esports, it's BM, right? Bad manners, and you don't do that stuff, and it's frowned upon. Here, it's a little bit more of a gray area. The fans love it, but it can get in people's heads and rub people
I used to hear from Mike Watson, and I might have shared this before, but he was saying back when we were playing like ST in arcades, or not even in arcades, like in a laundromat, if you did something that someone else didn't like threw them or something like that in the game, you would get punched, and people around you might punch you too. That was like the realism of like you say, arcade culture. And so, yeah, I mean, we do come from that, and maybe that is where the FGC should stay. I don't know, but it's fun. It's fun.
Honestly, for me, if anyone's going to be mad, it'd be Liquid, because how Duke carries himself is not only a reflection on him, but it directly affects his sponsor. If his sponsor has a problem with that, then obviously they should bring the hammer down. But, for me saying, oh, he's a bad guy, no. I mean, he's acting like a villain. And acting like a villain is fine, as long as you don't take it outside the game and start acting like a dickhead.
Yeah.
The kid definitely has a chip on his shoulder, and there's no denying that. He said that on our show outright. I mean,
but then when you talk to him, he's like the sweetest guy.
He is the sweetest guy, and I think the fact that he is, and the fact that people are hating on him is kind of spurred him to do it more. I mean, he is young, and I don't think there's much more to say on it, honestly.
You're right. Let's talk about some tournament results. What everybody wants to know: who won the Blaze Blue tournament?
I mean, I don't think there were even 16 entrants, so no one cares. But I won. No, I mean, it was a small tournament. Didn't get a trophy, but I did get a picture of Lychee failing from Blaze Blue, so that was pretty tight.
This guy was so salty because everybody got a trophy except for whoever won Blaze Blue.
No, but seriously, You know, it was nice. To be honest, like right now, it's hard to justify playing anime games for that purpose in a lot of ways. I love
because there's no trophies.
Because there's no trophies. It's my favorite fighting game, but at 15 entrants, you know, in a tournament that's supposed to be at least in some ways a major, it stops feeling like as much for me personally. I know some people just play for the love of the game. I certainly do, or I wouldn't keep entering, but with SF5 around the corner, you know, unless these games can pick up an entrance, it's a wonder whether they'll even still have tournaments for a lot of the smaller games. So I think that's the current state, honestly.
We'll see where that takes us. Guys, there were some other very, very hype matches that went down over the weekend. Of course, the headliner was Mortal Kombat X. And normally you don't see Mortal Kombat X being a headliner in an FGC tournament, but not only did it have the most entrants, if I'm not mistaken, but it also had that $10,000 pop bonus from NRS. Now, interesting to note about that pop bonus, and this to me was a surprise, that those pop bonuses that NRS keeps handing out to these tournaments are still coming from that Sub-Zero skin from when they originally sold the game, which I think is very interesting. I wonder how much they have left in the reserves, but I'm glad that they're still spreading that around. Did you guys, or Steve, did you catch any of that MKX action?
I wasn't able to get the actual tournament, but I did catch the exhibitions the night before. First off, shout outs to Panda. That card, honestly, top to bottom was probably the most excited I was for a set of exhibitions in a long time. But you know, Sonic Fox gonna Sonic Fox.
Yeah.
In the exhibition, in the tournament. We'll see if he does it this weekend at MKX Finals.
Scar gave a run for his money, though. Is definitely one of the close. He almost beat him in winners. He almost beat him in grand finals in the first set. It's definitely been a lot closer than has been in the past. But at the same time, you got to give it up to the kid. I think he's won his tournament with like his fourth different character at this point. I mean, it's just so ridiculous.
And he started with...
And he won Injustice, too.
That's right. He won Injustice with, was it Batgirl?
Batgirl.
Here he's using Cassie. Scar resets, and he switches to Tanya. Tanya's been getting a lot of flack, but the kid is like, hey, it's in the game. I know every character. That's your fault that you don't know how to fight against it, I guess. Sonic Fox, John, how do you feel about Sonic Fox and what he's done to the scene? Because you, I would imagine, monitor the comment sections. Anytime something about Sonic Fox comes up, you get a whole bunch of opinions on event hubs. What do you think, if you can gauge the temperature in the room, how do people feel about Sonic Fox?
Well, from what I've seen, nobody really hates him. You can't really hate him. Like, people have given him a hard time for maybe being a little bit different, wearing and stuff, but like, who in the FGC isn't? But as far as his tournament results go and everything, like, the kid is a beast. It's terrifying. Like, I'm glad I'm not in the MKX community, because what a mountain that would be in front of me all the time. And not only is he winning, but he's winning with like whoever he wants. He's like infiltrationing and just pulling out any character and winning the whole tournament with it. And it's like, who's ever going to be able to stop this guy? It's how it feels right now. But no, I mean, Sonic Fox is a great guy. I remember you guys doing an interview with him a while back, and that was really well received. I mean, he's got a great career ahead of him if he can stay healthy.
Exactly.
It's interesting because, I mean, really, that switching characters has been such a boon for him. And you can say maybe he would have won it easier with his main, but at the same time, it's really hard. I'm going to call out John here. I actually remember a couple years ago at EVO, he beat Infiltration's Chun-Li with his Gouken and then lost to his DiCapri. And playing the same guy twice with two different characters can be really, really hard. And I think when you see people competing at this top level doing that, almost picking at random, it's really going to be huge in the future. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's a skill that he's learned, and I think everyone's going to have to learn.
And, you keep hearing that. That's a bit of the drumbeat for Street Fighter V, going to Street Fighter V, that this game will be easy, but by that meaning easier to pick up main characters or different characters. How much of a role do you think that'll play, John?
Oh, I think that you're going to need to have at least 3 characters and 3 as different as possible characters just to stay afloat. For myself, I'm playing, right now, my plan is to play Ryu, for like kind of like the fireballs and mid-range, and then Necalli for like that mid-range into close range, and then Fang for like the long distance and the zoning. And because you're gonna have so many different people with so many different characters, you're gonna have to be ready for everyone, and you're gonna have to be able to be very flexible on the spot. And like one character, if it didn't get you by, it didn't get you through Street Fighter 4, it's definitely not going to get you through Street Fighter 5. But I would say minimum, you need to start learning 3 very different characters just to get out the gate.
Now, speaking of different characters, we had for grand finals in Ultra Street Fighter 4 at Kumite in Tennessee, we had, of course, the reigning champion, the guy who had won it last year, Hamad, go up against the guy that he beat to take it, which was NuckleDu. That was a repeat this year, except that the results were different. He started off with Elena, and I actually have a clip here. You were telling him to use Elena, weren't you?
I mean, I think everyone's first idea was to play Elena. Elena destroys Guile, and Hamad plays Elena, at least to some extent.
Here he's calling for the blind pick.
Yes, and it's very often considered one of the worst matchups in the entire game. We saw him win with it early. We saw him change his strategy. Unfortunately, despite winning, he started trying to changing the way he played and then lost with it later. So it didn't work as well in this sense, but I mean, he did get there playing Evil Ryu and Fei Long. So the counter picks brought him farther too.
You commentated top 8. In general, what did you think about Street Fighter 4 at Kumite in Tennessee?
Well, I know Chris has something to say about it when he comes on the show later. Mm-hmm. It was a very, and I'm going to be totally candid here about this, it was an oddly stacked tournament. The top was what you expect. I mean, Du versus K-Brad versus Hamad is something that you could see at any tournament. I mean, Alucard was there, and he's beaten Momochi in tournament. Mm-hmm. But starting from 8th place downwards was definitely not, an all-American major at what you've always seen before. However, the top 8 was pretty fantastic, and I thought the last match between K-Brad and Hamad, going from the Elena to the Guile to the Fei Long beating Guile to finally getting shut out by NuckleDu went really, really interestingly and well. So I think if you haven't watched it, you definitely should. The way that NuckleDu played Guile versus Hamad's Fei Long made it look like an unwinnable matchup.
And if you want to see those, you can go to youtube.com/PandaXGaming. He was kind enough to let us show some of the footage here, and he has uploaded, by the end of tonight, you will be able to see everything that he streamed. And there are certainly some great matches, not only in Street Fighter, not only in Mortal Kombat, but the Killer Instinct finals, the Tekken finals, a ton of really hype matches, and of course, don't forget those UFN exhibition matches. Guys, this is a very important image that Will, our technical director, is telling me in my ear that we're ready to see, and I'd like to see that now. Here we have the one and only Love.
I think I'm kissing her eyes instead of her mouth, but I guess that's all right, right?
It counts, man.
As long as it's love?
It is love. We were sharing a room, and this dude was sleeping with it in the bed. Look at that. It's a nice little trophy there for you. Gentlemen, we cannot talk about tournament results from the weekend without talking about Genesis. Now, this was a massive tournament. Steve, you wrote about it. What were some of your takeaways from the monstrous success that was Genesis?
Well, honestly, this was the Smash Evo. If for those who are unfamiliar with it, they had about 1,800 players for Melee. They had about 1,100 players for Smash 4. And the fact that they were able to make that event work in the 3-day weekend, especially with the grand finals all being, in that theater. That was an amazing look, an amazing setup. I know everybody hates Smash or are indifferent on Smash, but they nailed it from a technical perspective. They nailed that production out of the park.
We were at KIT, so we didn't get to watch a lot of it, but how many people were watching? I saw Noel Brown hooked his phone up to the speakers, and everybody was crowded around it. And
I mean, every phone in the entire venue was watching it, and probably more people. I mean, I would say there was as many people at the venue watching it as KIT, and that's not a knock to KIT. It's just like, they had 100,000 concurrent viewers or whatever.
Check this out: Smash entrance, okay. 193 entrants, second only to Evo, which had 1926. That's for Smash. The Melee singles, 1,828 entrants, second only to Evo, who had 1,869. I mean, we're talking massive amounts of bodies in one room. And there was that awesome shot. I mean, that theater that you're talking about. I mean, what a cool place, what a cool venue to host a tournament. Shout outs to those guys and their community. There's no way that you can not say that they're doing great things.
And I guess the whole floating thing ended up, being canceled, and everyone was all right with it. So I guess that kind of floated away.
Exactly. Guys, that's about all we have to talk to our illustrious panel about, unless there's anything we missed. Gentlemen?
No, I think we're good.
John?
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you for coming on, John. I hope you're nice and rested off of that nice weekend that you had. And we'll see you guys again next week. Before we move on to our interview, thank you, Steve. Before we move on to our interview with NYChrisG, I'm going to run a quick video that we played for talking about the MKX community. Those guys, I had a chance to go up and talk to them, and I bugged them, basically, for a video that we played during the halftime show, and I'm going to play it for you guys. I was a little bit nervous that I might piss some people off, but it was well received, and shout-outs to them. Check this out.
Awesome. Intense.
Is MKX a young man's game or an old man's game?
Is Mortal Kombat X a young man's or an old man's game?
Is Mortal Kombat X a young man's game or an old man's game?
Oh, I don't know. I think it's a combination of both.
I think it's both.
That's gonna do it!
And the brutality to finish it off.
I think it's a young man's game. You got the brutalities, the fatalities, like it all looks really cool. Kids like violence.
I would say for the most part dominated by the youngins, but the old guys still hang in there.
I think MKX is a young man's game. I don't think the old heads can really participate in this one.
But you do have old people like Tom Brady, and not old people, but older.
Young guys like Dragon and Sonic Fox, I feel like we need guys like that to sustain the life of the game. I mean, if you had just a bunch of OGs, it'd be like, an ocean with no rivers going into it. It would dry up.
So Mortal Kombat X was more like all these old veterans saying, oh yeah, when MK comes out, all these Injustice players are gonna get bodied. And here we are, placing top threes in every single tournament, and the old OGs can't even make it out of pools.
Who's the most overrated player at this tournament?
Overrated player at this tournament? Most overrated player.
Well, who's all here?
Well, I would guess Perfect Legend, but he's not here right now.
Wow. Oh man, I like this question.
Overrated? I don't know. That's not something I think about. Definitely last Sonic. None of the Yomi boys.
A lot of people have been saying Dragon.
I'm going to say CR Dragon's the most overrated player at this tournament. People think that Dragon, just because he plays Tanya, thinks the character's carrying him. It's not true.
They say Tanya carries him, but in my opinion, he's the best Tanya.
Probably one Cowboy. The most overrated player at this tournament? Tom Brady.
The most overrated player at KIT, it would be an insult to say anybody here is overrated. All these guys come out here, they play with 100% of their heart. The only people that are overrated are guys that come here and don't try.
What do you think?
That community is ridiculous, dude. It's just a bunch of hams. I love all. I don't even play the game. I was hanging out with them all weekend. I think went out drinking with Tom Brady. I think he offered that jacket to every girl in the city of Memphis. So shout outs to Tom. Sonic Fox, offered to coach me in Mortal Kombat. I mean, it's just a great community of guys. I think a lot of that comes from being a smaller game back in the day, but with the exposure, all still really fun to hang out with, and all obviously playing their game pretty intensely. We had like multiple, national, international even players there. We had Madsen from Germany, Foxy from Britain, and all the top American players. So it was super awesome.
What's impressive to me is that a lot of these guys are competing at the ESL tournament, and there's a lot more money at that tournament, and there's all that stuff going on, but they were still here in Tennessee.
Yeah.
What are you laughing at? What did you just see in the chat that's got you
I just think it's funny. Like, I don't know. Tom is hilarious, man.
Yeah.
He's absolutely one of the funniest guys to hang out with in the FGC for sure. I heard I'm a quarterback in high school. Check my stats. Google them. A lot of stuff. Shout out to Tom. Hope he comes on the show again.
Absolutely. Guys, what you've all been waiting for. We are now joined by none other than New York Christopher Genius Gonzalez. ChrisG, thank you so much for joining us, man.
What's up, everybody? Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for making the time. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm actually really tired right now. And if you can look behind me, it's a whole bunch of boxes and all sorts of stuff on the floor right now. But, I'll get to that soon.
Are you about to move or something? What's going on? Or are those all the Mad Catz fight sticks that you've won?
Okay, no, I finally got, speaking of people who were hating on me, for my controller, I finally got my new Chun-Li stick. So, I'm gonna be going in on that.
Cool, man. Well, of course we wanted to bring you on primarily because you just, won Marvel. I maybe it's fair, maybe it's not fair to say that you've been gone for a little bit. Is that fair to say? How do you feel about that?
Kind of. It's true in some ways. Before Evo, I wasn't really around too much, and I focused a lot on League, which most FGC players, actually most players in general, will be like, "What the hell are you doing?" But I hit Diamond in League, and afterwards, I realized that, well, unless I'm going to take this super serious, and this is when Evo came around, that wasn't happening, and I got bodied at Evo, and I was like, yo, why did I do that?
So there was a point before Evo where, I mean, whether it's the fault of the characters or, like sandbagging in different events, you were kind of becoming a bit of a villain. And since then, and since the comeback, I don't really think a lot of the animosity is gone. So, I mean, what has changed? Do you feel like you've gotten a bit of a fresh start since coming back, or do you just regret it entirely?
Oh, most definitely. For the longest, I was the villain. And, even though I never asked for it, it was kind of like, if you think about the three people, me, Justin, and Champ, it was like, all right, Champ is automatically the villain. Justin is the hero that everybody wants. And I was kind of this guy who, when I picked Ryu, I was a good guy. When I picked Morgan, I instantly just turned into this tyrant that, just people didn't respect. So after a while, just started to embrace it. But now that I'm back, like, people are just like, oh, we need the old school Morgan to teach all these new guys what's up. So that's kind of what I've been doing, trying to stay out of trouble and just do my thing.
What do you mean by stay out of trouble?
Damn. Man. Do I really want to go into that? Nah. I guess staying out of trouble would be me, not making controversial posts on Twitter, not sticking my nose into everything and just purposely trying to blow things up for the sake of it. Instead, I'm kind of all PG and yeah, I'm quiet now.
Well, speaking of that, Chris, you weren't in the Street Fighter 4 tournament at Kumite in Tennessee. What happened there?
Okay. Damn. So I entered a bunch of games this weekend, and for the first time in my tournament history, the time schedules were separated, so actually didn't really overlap, and Street Fighter was first, 10 a.m. Now, I got there the night before, and so they're like, all right, you got to play at 10 a.m. I'm like, all right, cool. I wake up a little late, and about, what is it, like 10:15, I get the call. I'm ready to go down. They're like, oh, you just got DQ'd, right? This is Dew hitting me up. And I'm like, all right, well, I mean, that's great, So I'm still waiting to go down, I'm assuming there's a loser's bracket, because in my head, this tournament was probably going to be the easiest tournament I've played at in a long time when it came to Street Fighter. So making top 8 would probably be even free in losers, And so I was ready to go down and like, nah, you're done from the whole thing. I was like, all right, well then, damn it. So I decided to test this theory, right? Which is, I've gotten DQ'd in countless amount of tournaments, even in top 8s. I've gotten DQ'd like all over the place. Now, I decided to see if they were going to hold the same standard for me for other people. So I started to check around pools, and I can see that, some pools didn't start till really later. This happens everywhere. And so I was even for my own Marvel pool, people were half an hour late, 45 minutes, people who were not even like in multiple games. So, so I was like, all right, whatever, I'm gonna hold that, but the way I see it is if you're gonna do the same thing for one person, if you're gonna set the example, and people try to do that all the time. If you're gonna set the example for even me, then why am I waiting 45 minutes for somebody else who is not entered into anything? And it's like, all right, well, you know what? I guess I just have to hold that.
We were there on the floor and we thought this guy probably just doesn't care about Street Fighter 4 and he's just, concentrating on Marvel. Your response to that?
Oh, no, I really wanted to play Street Fighter. And I told everybody there, the only game I've been practicing really is Street Fighter. If you've ran into me online, I've been playing mostly Sagat. I even played a set with Alucard after the tournament where I used Sagat. And, you know, it was still going back and forth against his Hugo. You know, I suck, whatever. But, you know, I was really putting in the work. Like, I think I went on like a 30-game win streak in casuals against other people. And, you know, I really actually wanted to play Street Fighter. But I guess, you know, I'll have to hold that.
So do you think this might become a bigger issue with Street Fighter V and Street Fighter IV being at the same events, potentially, with how big that's going to grow? Are you worried about being able to, you know, make all these games that these DQs are, you know, being thrown left and right?
DQing people is pretty much everywhere, right? You're going to get DQ'd from something at some point. Now, when it comes to Capcom games, like, the way DQs work, well, for most tournaments is if you're holding up the tournament, you know, you get put in the losers. If you're holding up losers, you're gone. You know, but again, some other tournaments make the rule where it's if you're 5 minutes late, you're just dead. You know, and I don't think it's going to be too much of a problem, except for people who play the Capcom games and let's say something else. Because if you're playing Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter 5, I'm assuming they're going to separate the two. But if they don't and you actually have to go back and forth, you might see some salt going around from a few people who've been DQ'd and they didn't even know.
Chris, we have Justin Wong saying, Chris needs me so he won't get DQ'd. And then later he says, I've been DQ'd if I don't want to play. So he's always on. So he's there and he makes sure to be there. Is there an element of, come on, bro, get there early?
Oh, 100%. I know I ain't special, you know. So, but, and this is where the opposite side of the spectrum comes into play. I've been to tournaments and I've been on time. I've even been early. You know, some tournaments that I actually really care about, I'll be sitting there and waiting. And you have to. I think I remember playing my pools at 10:30 at night, and I just decided I'm not playing. You know,
Yeah.
like there's been a few times where I was at my pool and got DQ'd. This happened at SCR, where I was waiting there. I was waiting to play, and for some reason I got DQ'd, and they said that they were calling me for hours. That doesn't even make sense. I was less than 10 feet away. How did you get lost?
So,
like,
I hate to interrupt, but I mean, we were treated very fairly by the guys at Kumite in Tennessee, and they're very kind to us, so I don't want to just bash them all. But in general, do you think that there needs to be a consensus on, hey, I'll do my part, but you guys need to do your part kind of thing, and have some kind of standardization of expectations there when it comes to rule sets?
100%. I don't come to tournaments just to play. Like, at this stage, I've been going to tournaments for, the past 5-6 years? I'm tired of just going to a tournament running super duper late, having to play at 9-10 o'clock back in the morning, just to have it run super duper late again, to be told, well, you know what, you got to wake up at 8 o'clock. I'm like, well, I am playing all these games, which is entirely my fault. But at the same time, if you are really holding these tournaments and things are going wrong, can you really fault players when you yourself messed up and had to stall a tournament 3-4 hours? People don't want to wait for that. I didn't get to eat anything. I don't eat at tournaments because I'm assuming, okay, well, all right, I should be done around 9 o'clock, which means I can go have dinner. Most tournaments lately, you have to keep waiting.
And
you know, it sucks.
I'm on your side in this sense. If it's a Keats tournament and the brackets happen exactly at 10 and happen exactly at 12, I think you have no excuse. But when things run late, it becomes a bit of a shit show, for lack of a better word, and that sucks. And I've definitely not eaten in a tournament before, so I totally see where Chris is coming from. That being said, I do think KIT as a whole was run pretty dang well. Mm-hmm. But I do have to question you getting DQ'd.
And not dropped into losers.
Well, no, I'm assuming some people, you know, they like to make the example of quote unquote top players. You know, oh yeah, if he's getting DQ'd, you know, that's it. This is the standard for the entire tournament. And again, I'm not bashing KIT at all. I think KIT was run almost perfectly. You know, so, but again, like there was leniency. I saw, you know, people come in 20, half an hour late. I didn't complain. because, I feel like that's the standard in general. If you have, let's say, like 2-3 hours, to run a bracket or whatever, like, you give people time. Okay, well, you know what? If he's in another game, if he's going to be holding up the bracket, we'll give him time. We'll give this person time. This person didn't even know he was playing at this time. I actually got switched to a different bracket this weekend, and I thought I was playing at, 6 or something like that, and I was moved 2 hours ahead. 2 hours later. There's also been some times where I'll be in a different pool, and I realize that pool was 2 hours earlier. So it's like things like that do happen. So that's why there is a sort of leniency. And I feel like if you're gonna do that for pretty much every tournament, why make, I guess, the first set of pools hold that pools,
Yeah. Well, Bealey, one of the TOs, says that he wasn't aware of it at the time. He was made aware of it by you. He talked to you about it, and that he's investigating as to why that happened. But again, I want to reiterate that these guys did a great job. They started off as a Tekken tournament many years ago, and they've really started to step up their game. And again, we were treated very kindly by them, and I know that you share that sentiment. But let's talk about the matches that you did compete in. I asked our resident Marvel head here, what match do we need to pull up? And he said, without question, the Grand Finals match. So we want to talk to you about that. First of all, how did you feel about the competition at Marvel leading up into Grand Finals?
Man, that tournament was stacked, and no one knew why.
What do you mean by that?
Because when you really think about it, right, we already knew that the Yomi guys was coming for MK, but for the Marvel players, it was like you're wondering, where did all these people come from? And I'm not even saying like there was a lot of entrants. It was why are all these good players here? Every time you go to a tournament, you're like, oh, well, I'm making out of pools free. Oh, snap, nah, winners finals, I might lose. So at this tournament, it was really stacked. And, I'm glad I made out of pools and winners, and I'm glad I got to Grand Finals.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the actual Grand Finals match. First of all, for anybody who didn't see it, and again, you can watch all these matches on youtube.com/PandaXGaming, but let's actually watch the match here. Who are you facing off against? And I know Deadpool was a unique pick, and you were telling me about how he's not that good of a character.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Okay. I was playing Dual Kevin.
Yep.
And, people have been sleeping on this guy for quite some time. I actually think he's really good. But the weird part was that you would never have seen this guy go into Grand Finals, because when you have people like Neo, Flux, Ray, the usual people who are like playing this game still, you're thinking one of these guys are going to make it to top 8. You think one of these guys, even if they run into Dual Kevin in top 8, they're like, okay, well, I kind of like that guy over him. But nope, he was putting holes in everybody. And again, using this questionable team. He was being lame, but also taking his picks. So it was really fun to watch, a Deadpool player just wreck everybody.
The thing is, obviously, and I guess I say obviously, but it's no question that Morgan destroys Deadpool. One of your fireballs goes through his entire gunshot, and you're throwing 4 at once. How do you feel about a guy getting that far, just have his soul taken from you? I remember you did this to Brightside at UFGT 8 versus Spider-Man. What is it about you that finally takes these guys down playing these low-tier characters?
I don't think it had to do with the fact that he played Deadpool. He played the matchup way too scared, and I could see it as because the first match, he hit me. He actually hit me and dropped a combo, and from then on, it just set off this chain reaction of him kind of confused throughout the whole entire set. And the way I told him was that when I super jump and I start throwing soul fists, he has to get underneath me. He's if you really think about it, right? When you watch Virgil players, like let's say Clockwork, when he plays me, he'll teleport 15 times and then just throw out launch. He'll just throw it out. And sometimes it does work. And he's playing a character that also has a really good teleport. Yeah, he's limited to 3, but he could have played the set a lot better by going underneath me when I am doing these things and trying to confuse me. When you confuse a Morgan player, she's gonna drop a lot of inputs, and I realized that wow, he's really just gonna try to lame me out. That doesn't work that way.
You seem pretty hyped that you won, which is something I was kind of surprised by. There was a long time where you winning was, just like matter of fact, and you almost seemed just relieved by it. What was so different about winning this one, even though you won it in such dramatically, dominant fashion?
Well, this tournament, I like trophies. I do. I love trophies. And right next to me, I have a whole bunch of trophies, and I like the way this trophy looks. It's a Magneto trophy.
Can you bring it out?
Nice.
Do you have it there at hand?
Yeah, actually, yeah. I'm just chilling right here. I have the other one, in display case back there, but this right here.
That looks awesome.
Yeah, and when I first came there, I haven't practiced this game in a long time. So when I was like, all right, I'm going to this tournament. I've been playing really sloppy lately, and I decided to train. I actually, I took out my Xbox. I forgot what his name. Knives came through, and we just started playing. And afterwards, I just went in. And going into KIT, I was actually, pretty confident.
It's interesting. You say you invited over Knives. There was a lot of kind of controversy back in the New York days about how you didn't play with anybody and you were just, like stealing wins from underneath everybody by, hiding in a corner. How do you respond to that? And how do you feel about, like winning these tournaments despite maybe not going out to as many sessions?
Oh, that was the best. That was
What do you mean?
I love to hear that. For the sole fact that these guys, right, in New York, the only way they would train is if somebody decided to go all the way to the Bronx and go to Bum's house. And I would tell them, I'm like, nah. Like, I'm not going to go all the way over there just to have to go 2 hours back to sweat. Like, I'm not going to do that because I used to go to tournaments 3-4 times a week. 4 times a week. That means that if you really had a problem with me going to local battles, next level, the break, and like Connecticut or Philly on the weekends, and you really complain I didn't play you? 4 tournaments? Are you kidding me? Like, do you really still want me to go all the way to the Bronx? Come on, man. You had more than enough chances. If you really wanted to play me, you would. I don't want to hear that.
Has anything changed since moving to California?
I feel like the scene itself here is a little drier, which, when I moved, they're like, oh, you got to go to SoCal. You got to go to SoCal. This place is going to be the greatest training house in the world. And like when I come down here, it's like, well, Super Arcade kind of closed. We play some locals. 5 people come through sometimes. And I'm just, what happened? Where was the drive that everybody said SoCal was the best in everything to it becoming, well, now it's NorCal. It's like, wait, did Justin just take everybody and just bounce? What happened? But I don't know.
Chris, on that point, we have a question again from our friend David Brown, and he asks the following. As the Marvel scene contracted, the tutorials and web shows like Marvel Minds, which is, of course, a Marvel-centric show that comes on Tuesdays, as web shows and tutorials improved or came into existence, if these resources were around during its expansion, do you think more players would have stuck with the game? Basically, is there more content now than there was then, and would it have been better served? Is it a little too little too late?
Well, besides the companies themselves not supporting the game, that's pretty much the biggest issue that we had. Maybe. Okay, go ahead.
I was going to add on to that, which is just that you play for Tempo Storm, and I know for Hearthstone, Tempo Storm puts together a panel of guys who make, decks and guides and lists and tutorials for Hearthstone, despite being pro players themselves. Is that something you've ever considered doing?
Okay, yes, that's actually a really good thing. But when you really break it down, right? You think about a game like Hearthstone. The game just like had recently come out, and it got such a big burn for being an online card game. When you really think about it, it's like, okay, well, Marvel is a fighting game. You bring your friends over, everybody's playing each other, everyone's beating their heads in, and you're thinking there's going to be more content for something like that. At the end of the day, though you got a lot of viewers, you got a lot of, love and praise for doing the Hearthstone guide. When Raynad streams, he gets thousands upon thousands upon thousands of viewers. And again, he's able to make those risks. Okay, well, I'm gonna spend my time making these guides. Hopefully people pay attention. Hopefully people watch and blah blah. I would stream Marvel. I would ChrisG, apparently the Marvel god. I'd stream Marvel and get like 200 viewers. And it's like, and this was like 2 years ago when, Marvel was still kind of good. So after a while, I started to realize, wow, no one's gonna care. And I made a bunch of combo videos. I even did it for MKX.
Yep.
And those got thousands upon thousands of viewers because people actually cared. Oh snap! It's Mortal Kombat. Like, let me see what type of Liu Kang combos are out. I made a Liu Kang combo video, and it got a lot of viewers, a lot of views. But when I made my Morgan combo video and I made like a bunch of that other stuff, when we did the shows with Finger Cramp, they got love. But for some reason, you're starting to realize, you're like, wow, it's like, is the FGC so limited to only the FGC will watch? And, after a while, I was just like, this isn't fair. This isn't right. I don't want to do this, and you get none out of it.
Well, Chris, I mean, that's kind of a bleak picture that you're painting, but now you're signed by Tempo Storm. You said that you're very happy to be with them, and I want to talk to you about that. Also, Street Fighter V is around the corner. Again, it almost sounds like you're... Well, I'm not sure. I mean, how do you feel about that going forward?
Okay, I enjoy being on Tempo Storm, and he has big plans. He started.
You're talking about Raynad, the owner of Tempo Storm.
Raynad, he started recently, and it's already become such a big thing. He's got Axe and West Balls, who were at Genesis. I watched them play. I was watching the stream too.
Yeah.
Before top 8s and stuff, I was sitting there like, oh snap, what's going on in Genesis? And so he's trying to make smart moves. He's trying to get his brand out there. He picked me up, he picked them up, and he's a streamer himself. So he's at this point he understands what people want to see, what the content he's going to create next. And I think it's a really good thing, and I enjoy being on a team, and I'm going to be there as it moves forward.
Street Fighter V, that's the big question. Of course, I mean, you said you really wanted to play in Street Fighter 4, so clearly you're passionate about the title. Street Fighter V is around the corner. How do you feel about that going forward?
I'm 100% ready to play Street Fighter V. For the longest time, even though I played Street Fighter 4, I didn't put as much time into it. So I always wondered what would have happened if I would have 100% been about Street Fighter 4 instead of Marvel. And I got the results in Marvel, but the Street Fighter 4 results were still, all right, he got 7th place, he got 5th place, he got 5th place. It wasn't like he won. So I'm hoping that, if I'm 100% dedicated in Street Fighter 5 when it comes out, I'm going to get those results. I'll be in the top 3s, and that's all I can hope for.
There's no Sakura in sight for Street Fighter V. Who you like, and have you been playing the betas?
I actually haven't. Only because I don't want to get used to something that's not there anymore. And that's the worst feeling. Like, I remember in the beta when I was able to do, low strong, low forward, and now I can only do low strong. It's like, well, damn, that sucks. So I'm gonna play 100% fresh. I'm gonna be using Nash and Laura. And I don't want to get used to something that, again, won't be there. So even if it's as simple as this was a stun combo before, this did like 30 damage before, now it's a little tweaked, the hurt box has been changed. I don't want to hear any of that. I just want to know, okay, this is what I have to work with. This is what I'm going to deal with.
Go ahead.
You mentioned being, 100% with Street Fighter V. Does that mean you're going to loosen even further with other games? Obviously, I mean, the other major releases coming out are questionable as to how major there are. There's Pokken, but who knows if that'll be picked up. There's KOF 14,
Tekken
not
7.
as big of a game. Tekken 7, you haven't been as involved with 3D. Does this mean Street Fighter V is going to take like a very, very large portion of your time, even as a multi-game player?
Yes, and it's for only one reason. Even if the game is crap, and I'm really hoping it's not crap, but even if it is crap, this is it. And what I mean by this is it is you either play this game or you do not. And when it comes to the other tournaments, I'm assuming the numbers aren't going to be as great. There is Street Fighter V. So for people who were playing the 16-man bracket in Blaze Blue, maybe those Blaze Blue players will be playing Street Fighter V instead too.
Definitely, yeah.
And, it sucks. It really does suck because I'm a supporter of multiple games. But when these games start to become 8-man round robins, you're realizing you're like, wow, I'm actually still sitting here for 2 hours playing this 8-man round robin when I could be focusing 100% on this top 16 in Street Fighter V. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure most people are just going to lay low on some of the other games and at least wait until KOF, 14, I think.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Comes up.
Chris, I know you as a very passionate guy. Of course, at Marvel, and of course you get ragged on, you get a lot of hate because of your Marvel performance at EVO and the emotion that you had when that happened. 2016 is looking like a big year for the FGC. What are you trying to accomplish? How will you know you succeeded? Is this Cap Cup? Is it EVO? Is it? What are you trying to accomplish in 2016? And we'll close out the show on this answer. Sorry to interrupt.
Let's go. I really want to make it to Capcom Cup. I'm pretty sure if I entered, more qualifiers, I could have gathered enough points to make it, but, sadly for me, I couldn't make all those tournaments that were giving out those points. And I'm really hoping this year, since I'm going to be 100% serious about Street Fighter, I just want it to show, even if I don't make like top 8, top 16, top 32, and this EVO coming up, which it's going to be hard. It's a new game. So I just want that to work out. I want to start just working, just making as much money. I'm going to start streaming, when Street Fighter V comes out, because right now things are a little iffy for me. So that's it. Just do my best.
One more thing. Killer Instinct. Someone in the chat is asking about Killer Instinct. I know you entered at KIT. It's coming out for PC. What's with you in that?
Okay, yeah. Everyone was wondering if I was going to continue KI after this tournament. Well, when Season 3 comes out. And it's the same thing for like the Guilty Gear players who want me to play Chip and keep playing that game. I entered KI because they just entered me in it. I didn't even ask to be in it. They just entered me in it. And, I made top 8, and it was so weird. The amount of support I got for playing KI was, like, legendary. It didn't make any sense. Everyone was like, yeah, let's go, Chris. And I was just sitting there like, wow, like, damn. I don't know if, you actually want me to win or because you really think that, since I haven't put in the time, it's like, if he wins, he loses, whatever. But again, like, I made top 8, and I was just like, oh, snap, here, take this Jago mask. Take this band, this is KI, here, take these points for KI Cup. And I'm like, and they're just hoping I play the game. I probably will play it when Season 3 comes out. Probably just going to stick with Wolf. And most likely master him, because even when I was playing, it was sloppy as hell. But, most likely I'll probably play it.
Chris, you said that you adopted the role of villain because you kept getting categorized as such. It sounds like you had the complete opposite response here at KIT. Which do you prefer?
It's always nice to be a villain. I enjoy it only because, my phone would blow up when I would write something. I was always watching or reading or paying attention to something or being on Kappa, 3-4 times in 1 week. That's always fun. I like to read about what people make up for me, but being a nice guy, it's not so bad. It might work out better down the road. I might get more opportunities than when I was a villain, because you don't get nothing. You have to hold that. They as in Once Upon a Time, they don't get their happy ending. I'm sorry. So, being a nice guy, I'm hopefully, things change, and I'm going to just be a nice guy. Just sit around, congratulate absolutely everybody. I might start hugging people.
That'd be crazy, dude.
ChrisG 2016 goals: hug more people.
Oh, 100%. That's what everyone does.
All right, Chris, is there anything we didn't ask you about that you want to mention before we let you go? Where we can find out more about you, see your stuff, follow you on Twitter, all that good stuff?
Get a hug, maybe.
Get a hug?
Thanks for having me.
Okay.
And shout out to Temple Store, my sponsors. Shout out for the support, KIT. It's a great tournament. I'm definitely most likely going to be there next year, years following, if they're still throwing it out. And, yeah, have a good day, guys.
Chris, thank you so much for joining us, man. I really appreciate it. And thank you guys for watching The Best of 3. I'm your host, Efren Salinas, and Danke has one more thing to say.
I want to rant about one thing.
Let's hear it.
Which is that, we talk about these tutorial videos, and we talk about, like, you make one, it doesn't get enough views, it's whatever, like, there's no reason to keep making them. SF5 needs, and I mean legitimately needs, some sort of encyclopedia or something that will continue to live. I have gone through so many games with empty wiki pages and, like guides that came out week 1 that were never updated and tournaments that had combos that sucked, 3 years in. And I'm hoping that as a community, we can do this not only so that we are better players, but so that people trying to pick up Street Fighter V can learn it easily and get into it. There's so many resources for the other games. And yes, Hearthstone more easily lends itself to a deck guide than Street Fighter V does to, like how to play a character. It's a lot more complex. It's a lot harder to write out. But if you can make these videos, people will watch them, at least early on. I made an Iron Man combo video the day of Marvel 3 and got like 60,000 views. There's a lot of room there still, and no one's really successfully done it in past games. If we want to grow as an esport, or even if we don't and we just want bigger pop bonuses, getting these things consistent is going to be how we do it. So I don't know who's going to do it. Maybe it'll be me. Probably not, but someone's got to do it.
Community, what are you going to do? GG's, guys. Thank you for watching. I'm Efren. That's Mike.